the node.js NAPI team meeting for October 9th, 2020. We'll follow our standard approach of looking through the things we've tagged for milestone 11. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to make before we do that? No? Okay, so let's move on to the issues that were tagged. I will share my screen here. Where did the share button go? There we go. Okay, so the first one, free seal APIs. I don't think there's anything to talk about on that one. PR has landed, so I think we can close that. We talked about that last week in detail, which was great. The next one is tracking NAPI PRs needing a backport. So this one we discussed and agreed last week that we would create an issue to track the issues. It looks like Gabriel's filled in quite a bit of that, which is great. I don't know if there's anything we need to touch base on this. I don't have anything. Does anybody else? If not, okay, let's move on to the next one, which is the blog post to discuss the last few years of NAPI. I'm opening up the doc. So I see a number of people have started to fill in the sections, which is great. Are there any things? Go ahead.
I had some questions because in this section about new features and functionalities, it's like, in my mind, it's pretty technical, and I don't want it to sound too tutorial-y. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, so I'm trying to figure out what's the best, like it's the audience, like who like what should I try to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I do. I think, like, in my mind, it's not, we don't want to get into necessarily code samples or anything like that. It's more like to highlight, here are the new things you can do or do more easily that you couldn't before. And then maybe a link off to the actual examples in the examples repo or somewhere else if there's docs. So, the fact that, there's now thread safe functionality, it's more about like, what is it that people wanted to do that was hard before, and now what can you do more easily? Like, keep it, that would be my take, is keep it kind of at that level.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then that second comment that I had, it makes sense to show, like, call out the projects that use these. I'm just having trouble finding them on GitHub. I'll continue looking. It's just that, like, my method of searching for them is by searching for the methods, like an API create that say function or whatever. And the search results are mainly like the header files, or yeah, or like these smaller projects that I'm not really, I don't really know what they are. So I just need to take some time, I guess, to like research these projects to see if they are big enough to be listed as, because I think on the very bottom of this document, we had listed some other projects. Yeah. So trying to find, like, those are big names, right? So I'm trying to get some bigger name ones, and like thread safe functionality is a big feature, so it just have to take a while to find some good ones.
Yeah, and it may be that we're early, right? So that maybe there aren't ones and they had to work around it. So I think that it's good to keep looking. And I mean, did you look through these three and see if any of them use?
No, I didn't.
So that's just worth
that's worth a shot. Okay, yeah, I'll check those out. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and then that's pretty much all the questions that I had. And then I've just been working on the other sections and just continuing to flesh them out.
Okay, that's good. Any questions from other people in terms of moving forward? Sections that are like people think are done, or what's just sort of figuring out what, if anything, we should talk about this week on this front.
I see how Kevin has used the links on the GitHub doc, and so this week I put the links in line, and so this week I'll adopt the method that Kevin's used for setting up the linking.
Okay, which is like
so
this one, or
CMake. If you go to CMake,
sure.
Yeah. See how I put the URL in parentheses behind it.
Right.
I'll put that into the note. I'll do the linking correctly, like Michael,
okay.
like Kevin has done.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I only started to work on my section.
Yep.
I hope to end this weekend.
Yep, I haven't gotten started either. So, okay, but it looks like, you know, some people are making some good progress, and we can touch base on it again next week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. No, there we go. Okay, we're back to new version of V8 failures causing failures in test object. I think seems to be resolved. So it seemed like it was some sort of build infra thingy, which I managed to clean with that workspace clear, so that's good. NAPI 7, I know that Gabriel has got it backported to 12, I think now, but might as well leave that one open until it's backported to 10 as well. Haven't gotten to review the external examples or looking at debug testing. DB find, oh, wait a sec. This is just everything now. Let me, right. So I think then the last main thing to do now is to look at issues. Are there any issues people want to discuss from either of the repos?
I have nothing.
No, I see we have the most recent one is the issue is for the next release. I think I saw that Kevin, you're going back and forth a little bit with Gabriel in terms of review and updates.
Yes. We had talked last week about, because he had some confusion of the ref and unref, and we resolved that. So then all of the majority of the updates are documentation and formatting. I'm finishing that up today.
Okay.
And I think that should be good to go. Okay,
great. Because yeah, I just once Gabriel signs off, I'll go ahead and land it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's good, and you know, I think we're then would be on track to put out release 3.1, which would be good. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm going back to issues. Here we go. Otherwise, unless anybody has anything to call out on that, let's just look at the PRs. See if there's. Sorry, go ahead.
There is a PR that we MCU that you commented that we will discuss on the meeting.
Right. Okay. Good point.
It's
is that PR, which PR number is that?
819.
Okay.
Yeah, the PR introduced a CI checks on the incremental, the changed lines of the source code. So it will only check the changed lines, but not the other part of the file. Since we have mostly the two files, we don't have to format the whole files immediately. So only the changed lines.
So this basically is as we change lines through PRs, it will say, hey, you need to do it according to this Clang format.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The format I have copied from the node.js core repo.
Okay.
Do we have an equivalent one for JavaScript formatting for like our test files?
I
You
don't
know?
find any JavaScript linkers.
Okay.
Well, there's definitely ESLint, which will do JavaScript linting for us. So we could pick one, and there's like I forget, like there's PKGS support, I know, is one that has enabled, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Like it's like an almost, like there's something called standard, but this is like almost standard, where it's that plus, but having semicolons at the end of lines.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we can investigate that then, because one of Gabe's comments on my PR was regarding formatting of our JavaScripts. And so I guess if there'd be some way that we can get that.
Yeah, that would be good.
Concrete.
Like that's in our tests JavaScripts, or is in there?
So the comment that he actually made was for a snippet in my in the README in the Markdown, and I guess because maybe I don't have auto format on save or something for those. Maybe I do on the JavaScript files. Who knows? So then he made a comment about the formatting for that example, and then it just made me think of, okay, well, do we have any, just like ESLint rules or ESLint formatting?
Yeah, I think if we could agree on a standard ESLint, like one of the standard ones that's out there, that would be good.
Okay, yeah, we can look at that and maybe see which one has the least amount of modifications.
Right. Yeah.
Just to the code that we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. So on this one in particular, I guess what I was wondering about was, like you'd mentioned, that there was like 30K of lines, but this is basically incremental, so it's not actually going to have a huge change. It's just going to mean that we slowly move in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any concerns in that context?
Yes. It's something that developer need to follow. Yeah, it's a standard. But what happen if I don't follow this standard, and I made a pull request? So we have an automatic check on the pull request.
Yep, I think so. So if I go to node add-on API, let's see, when you do a PR, do we run today? It's got this one check, which does a Travis CI pull request. And that, I assume, would fail now, right, Legendikas, if the linting.
Yeah, currently the checks will run in all of these jobs.
Right, but the question I think that Nicola is coming to is, if we add this, if we land that PR, will that be running that linter, one of the checks that gets run?
I believe
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Me?
You're sort of breaking and come here. Yeah, no, we didn't hear you the last minute or so.
I'm saying that we can add a dedicated job for the linting and checks, so it won't fail the build in all of this matrix.
Yes, that's a good. So basically, have two separate another build for checking the format instead of running the tests.
Yeah.
But then that would be like setting up a new build in the CI or something, and and I'm not sure how that would be done.
I could look at doing a GitHub action to trigger that.
Yeah,
Right?
like
because instead of running, npm run test, it would do like npm run lint, and if that one fails, then the build would fail. But it would be separate from the build that's running npm test, which is running on all the different environments that we have, Linux, Mac, and whatever,
Right.
wherever. The one that's running npm run lint only has to run on one machine.
But I think, isn't that what this change does? It adds the npm run lint to the test run.
I don't see it in a change to the package JSON for npm test.
But I mean,
right,
like in the travis.yml.
Yes, I see. Yeah, I believe what you say is correct then.
But so we'll see it if somebody checks a PR in, but if they ran npm test, they wouldn't necessarily see it.
Correct. Which
Good point.
I think that's standard. I mean, that's how my company does it. We also have a pre-commit hook that, like if you try to commit, it runs the linter as a pre-commit hook. We can probably investigate in adding that too, because it's just an npm package pre-commit that you add, and so that way you can still run npm test without running the linter.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like for the node projects, it's the same. It's a separate target. So, although I think if you said make test, it would test everything, including the linting and the.
Make test will run the linters in the node core.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that. Whatever we decide then.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense to me how it is right now, with the addition of possibly adding the pre-commit hook that would run npm run lint.
Right. Now that commit, so that's if you were committing a PR?
This is a pre-commit hook that runs locally. So when you type into your workspace, git commit, blah, 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 blah.
Right, okay.
Before it actually commits, it'll run that command and fail if it fails.
Yeah, that would be good to add.
Mm-hmm.
So if the combination of those two would mean we should catch it in the like in our PRs, and developers should see it when they're working locally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still hesitate about adding a pre-commit hook to the of the linters, since the git clan format and make lint in the node core will prompt up in the command line to saying that if you have files not staged yet, it will prompt up the line to indicate that you have to stage first, and then you can run the linters. It will ensure that your code will not be overwritten by the linters unexpectedly.
He wasn't suggesting, I don't think the suggestion was that it would automatically format, but just that it would run the linter and tell you if you had problems.
Correct. Yeah, because like you added two different tasks, right? You have lint and lint fix, right? So the pre-commit hook would just run lint, not lint fix. So it would still be up to the developer to manually run the fixer. The pre-commit hook would just run the checker.
However, since we have the CI running for the checks, do we still have the pre-commit hook is still required? They can be disabled locally, or we have to install it with the dependency like Husky.
Right. So it would be beneficial because it would stop PRs from being created that we know would fail because the CI would fail. So it would stop a developer from creating a PR that is bound to be rejected. And then with the pre-commit hook, you can still force the commit to succeed even if the command fails. So you still have the flexibility of still making the commit and still pushing it if you want to. It's just, and the way that you configure it is it's just like a package that you install, and then you add like the command in your package JSON for what you want it to run before committing. So it's pretty simple. And I think it would be good because then we could add the linter command, and then if we figure out what we want for our JavaScript linter too, we can add both of them, and then everything would be formatted.
Would it make sense, Kevin, for you to like make a suggestion or push something to this like an extra commit to say add that extra step? Because it probably makes sense for us to have that before we turn on the CI, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, definitely, I can do that.
And then we'll take a look, and that'll be concrete. Does that sound good, Legendikas?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments, suggestions on this one?
I just I want to say that yeah, I prefer a permissive approach. So yeah, we should give a suggestion, but we should not stop to commit or create a pull request, because at the end we always have the CI that help us like maintainers to to see that there is an errors on the code. So
well, I mean, it's two things. First would be when you do the commit, and if the linter fails, the Git will say the command failed. If you want to run it anyways, run this command. And then you just copy and paste the one that's like, it's a switch that says no verify. So it just skips the commit hooks.
Yeah, okay.
And then secondly, when you said that we still have the CI that would run it, yes, the CI would run it, but since it's running the exact same tests, it would fail, you know. So it would just be like, it doesn't really make sense to push a commit that you know the CI would fail, if that makes sense. But you still have the power to do it if you want. Does that address any of your concerns?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll I'll make some comments on this, and I can even make a branch out of this with the pre-commit hook added, and then you guys can like check out that branch and see how it behaves.
Sounds good. Okay, just flipping back to the PRs now.
I don't know if someone yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know in terms of this example whether we think that's needed or not, or I think maybe I was confused. I looked at the doc and did I miss that there was a default set? Here, let me, sorry, it was instance value, right? Yeah. Oops.
But for the DOM.
I guess what I needed to look at was here. That's what I did wrong.
In the add-on class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess the question is in this, yeah, like in here. File.
Define properties.
What does NAPI default include? Okay. I think it must be Node API NAPI.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, it's making it non-enumerable. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know the NAPI enumerable is yeah, it is okay. Define properties.
I mean, I know we added in a. We just added in. Was it in core? Did we add in? Is it master? Node.
I think that it works without NAPI underscore NAPI enumerable. So
Right.
yeah, it's not necessary.
Okay. So I guess the question is if.
But I can try.
Okay.
And later I can comment to be sure. So,
sure. The one thing I wondered is there was a discussion around default. Like adding in something which was going to be like something closer to the default for JavaScript. If you remember that.
Yes.
That discussion. I'm just wondering, like in an example, would it be better to show a default that actually gets you something that's closer to JavaScript versus like no access?
Yeah. So.
Right. This one we just said like this nappy default JS
JS
property, right?
property. Yeah.
Like we can't necessarily use that because it's not in all versions, but like it might be that like setting it to be this combination makes the most sense.
But in the example or in our code?
I meant in the example. Like in the example, we're sort of showing people a pattern they might cut and paste.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking like if we don't need it, that's one part. But the other aspect is if they just copy that code, should we have it be something which is closer to what they probably want or thought they wanted, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. People just copy and paste the example. Yeah. And
so
maybe we can start in the documentation.
Yeah.
And then in the example. And I don't know, maybe in the next major version we can do this in the code. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we can necessarily change the defaults on people, unfortunately, but
yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. We will break something. So yeah.
Yeah, or subtly make something visible that they didn't mean to, which I don't think would be good.
But it's a choice to be more near to the JavaScript standard, or maybe leave the things like they are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take a look, maybe just think about whether like deleting it makes sense or suggesting some combination like that is, equivalent to nappy default JS property.
Okay. I can do this.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm now trying to get back to this one. Okay, so you will chime in there. There's a couple here.
We have these, but I didn't have the time to take a look.
Yeah, me neither. I think it takes a little bit more thinking, right? So
yeah.
Okay, so we will leave that. And I think that's the only newer ones. Let's flip over to Node. And issues. Okay, I don't see anything new on that front. I know that LegendaCast, this one you've made some changes, you've made some updates, right?
Yeah, a few people have commented on the PR, so I will update according to the reviews.
Perfect. Okay, so otherwise I don't see anything to jump into there. Let's look at pull requests. NAPI, where are we? Okay. So this one I was about to land. Gabriel correctly pointed out we landed 7, so I've updated that, and if it passes checks, I'll land. And this is the other one we just talked about that LegendaCast is helping to move forward. So I don't see anything else there. So I guess that's it from the issues. Is there anything else that we think we should talk about this week? No? Okay. Well, thank you for everybody who took the time to join, and we will see you in GitHub. And next week, actually, I won't be here next week. It's a day off for me. So I in email asked Gabriel to chair. Hopefully he'll be able to do that. If not, I'll reach out to one of the other team members to see if they can do that.
Yeah, he responded and he said he can do it.
Okay, great. So yeah, so I won't see you the next week, but I'll see you in GitHub and 2 weeks from now.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Talk to everybody
Bye.
later. Bye.
Bye bye.
So I'm gonna